Hello, this is Mark Van Gelder with subvertgov.com, and I want to talk about anarchy and anarchists and why they are persecuted. Primarily the misunderstandings associated with anarchism, the misunderstandings associated with the idea of being anti-government, um, and sort of a way to look beyond that. So anarchists as a whole have been misconstrued. A lot of times you'll see media reports of anarchists plotting to blow up, a bridge, like what happened in, I think it was Cleveland, um, or when Leon Czolgosz assassinated um, President McKinley. It all of a sudden turned into a big anti-anarchist uh, media frenzy. And I think that for the most part, anarchists are misunderstood. Anarchy, this even anarchism is misunderstood among other anarchists. And the question is, does anarchism boil down to an idea of being anti-government, or does anarchism boil down to an idea of being anti-authority in general, and then anti-hierarchy? I personally say that a good starting point for anarchism would be anti-state, anti-government, because government has historically created terrible, terrible things for humanity, um, particularly when it comes to wars and when it comes to arrests, assassinations, um, killings for people that disagree with them. On the whole, government is sort of the problem. And I'm not terribly opposed to hierarchy in general, because if one person, goes and works for a company, he or she says that by working for this company, I agree to abide by certain standards or codes, and therefore I would, say that if a person voluntarily chooses to work for this company, that it's sort of a contract that's agreed between two people, and if it's agreed between two people, then there's really nothing wrong with it. If you want to work for a company that said, hey, I don't want you to smoke pot, if you want to work for that company, you agree not to smoke pot. It's still a voluntary transaction, and there's no real hierarchy or authority associated with that. It's basically, if you don't want it, if you don't want this job, then go look for a job somewhere else, because I have certain standards associated with my employees. So, in that regard, I'm an anarchist communist, but I am not opposed to the idea of capitalism, because I believe that capitalism does create a lot of good in society. Um, I believe that free markets and free interactions between people is sort of the backbone behind capitalism. Um, and in that regard, I'm not terribly opposed to it. And I think that actually only through free markets can we really have communism. Um, so, like I said, there's a lot of misunderstanding, and anarchists are being misconstrued by the media, and I think it's a pretty well orchestrated plot against us, because it's making us to be out to be the bad guys, and we're really not the bad guys. We believe in freedom, and if you want to call liberty lovers the bad guys, then so be it. But I think that the more people hear about anarchism, the more people hear about the idea of freedom, the more they're receptive to it. And I think that the government realizes this, and it's going to backfire on them. Um, so the way to move forward is basically preaching liberty, preaching free exchange, free markets, uh, moving beyond the the paradigm that we have right now. And There's not really a whole lot else that we can do at this point because apart from preaching, I guess we could move into what you would call direct action. But direct action for me is a little bit different than direct action for a lot of anarchists. Direct action for a good deal of anarchists is about actually going out and physically assaulting the state, and I don't believe in that. I do think that if you're going to be free and you're going to practice liberty, then you've got to actually put your ideas into practice. So the way to do that is through agorism, which is finding peaceful gray and black markets, uh, finding ways of getting paid without having to pay taxes, and sort of suffocating the state. And through the suffocation of the state, it'll cease to have its power, and everybody will be everybody will realize that the free markets are really the only way to go, and then we will have what Samuel Edward Konkin called the agora, and that's really where I recommend everybody go to. That's what I plan on going to, and I know I'm probably putting myself in a lot of legal danger by doing so, but I really don't care. I mean, if I'm going to pretend to be free, if I'm going to advocate for freedom, then I've got to actually live up to my words and stop being scared. Stop being scared of the government. Stop being scared of regulations and taxation and all that, and actually find ways around it. So, peaceful free markets, the only way to do that is by using gray and black markets. So I recommend everybody check out classifieds, use them whenever they can, go to farmers markets to buy your produce whenever they're available. And yeah, basically just there's a whole bunch of black and gray market activity you can do on the darknet, and just do it. Stop, to actually live like you're free rather than just complain about the state. Just do something about it. So, agorism, in my view, is really the way to go to achieve real anarchy. And I think Samuel Edward Konkin III and Neil Schulman had it right. So, agora, anarchy, action.